My name is Serena Cole. I am 27 years old. I knew something was wrong before anyone said anything. The hospital workers were pushing me out in a wheelchair. The bright white lights on the ceiling kept flashing above me as I held a pillow against my stomach, trying to keep my stitches from hurting. My mom was standing by the automatic doors, looking at her phone. My dad was already sitting in the car with the engine on. Nobody smiled. Nobody asked, "How are you feeling?" My mom didn't hug me. She barely even looked at me. My dad didn't even get out of the car. They were both on their phones arguing about a water bill. My mom snapped, "I told you to call them yesterday." And my dad said something quietly about late fees, like that was the big problem right now. I sat there in the wheelchair feeling numb, watching them talk, feeling the burning pain across my stomach, and thought, this might have been a mistake. Going back home wasn't the plan at first. Before everything went wrong, I was living by myself, barely getting by, but surviving. I was paying for college by myself, going to classes and working shifts, stretching leftovers into meals. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. Then my body let me down. My health got really bad suddenly. Some mornings I could barely stand long enough to make coffee, much less go to work. The pain got worse. Days blurred together, and suddenly surgery wasn't something far away anymore. I panicked. I was too weak to cook, too scared of failing everything I'd worked for. The idea of paying rent, utilities, groceries, and medical bills while barely able to function made my chest feel tight. So I did what a lot of people do when life knocks them down. I went back home. I told myself it would be temporary, just a couple of months. I'd save money on rent, get the surgery done, rest, and get back on my feet. I'd have some emotional support around me, family who would catch me while I got better. A soft place to land. That was the dream I told myself as I signed the hospital paperwork. What a joke. In the weeks before the surgery, my parents asked me for money 3 times. The first time it was for my brother's car insurance. "Serena, you know how hard it is right now," my mom said over the phone. "Your brother needs his car to get to work. You don't want him to lose his job, do you?" I was lying on my back in bed, holding my side, staring at a crack in the ceiling. "How much?" I asked, even though I already knew I would say yes. The second time it was for groceries. "We're feeding so many people," my mom complained. "Your brother, Jasmine, your dad, me, you when you're here. You know how expensive everything is now." I sent the money while she was still talking. The third time it was an emergency. No details, just a quick text. "Can you send something now?" "I'll explain later." She never did. I gave it anyway. Stupidly, like I always did. I kept thinking, it's fine. They'll help when it matters. They'll be there when I really need them. They'll step up when I'm recovering. I even paid part of the water bill they were fighting about, just so they'd stop texting me while I was in the recovery room. My brother and his wife, Jasmine, were staying at my parents' place too, in the guest room. "Just for a little while," my mom had said. "They're looking for a house. You know how stressful that is." Every other sentence out of her mouth was about how hard it was to feed everyone, how much pressure she was under. No one asked how I was doing. After the surgery, I spent 2 days in the hospital alone. No visitors, not even a text from my parents. On the second day, my cousin Leah showed up. She walked in with a smoothie in one hand and a pair of cozy socks in the other. "You look terrible," she said softly, but her eyes were kind. "Thanks," I said in a scratchy voice, and we both laughed. A small, shaky sound in the quiet hospital air. She sat by my bed, fixed my blanket like it was the most natural thing in the world, and started talking about nothing important. Funny work stories, a neighbor's dog, a show she thought I'd hate, but wanted me to try anyway. She didn't ask for details. She didn't push. When she left, she squeezed my hand and said, "When you're ready to talk, I'm here." That was the only kindness I saw that week. Then came the ride home. My dad barely looked at me in the rearview mirror. My mom stared out the window, silent. The whole car felt like a waiting room before bad news. No one asked if I was in pain. No one asked if I needed to stop. My dad didn't even pull the car all the way into the driveway. He stopped halfway like he was dropping off a package. Not his daughter, who had just had surgery. When I walked into the house, I thought I'd opened the wrong door. My room was empty. No bed, no desk, no shelves, no books, no rug. The closet door was open and the inside was empty. For a second, I just stood there blinking. My brain tried to make sense of it. Maybe there had been a leak. Maybe they'd moved everything out to clean. Maybe this was temporary. Some weird mistake. Then I saw them. Garbage bags. 4 of them. Sitting neatly in the hallway. Each one labeled with my name in thick black marker. Serena. 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 My dad walked past me like nothing was wrong. Like I wasn't standing in the middle of an empty room. He didn't even slow down. My mom looked over from the kitchen doorway, eyes moving from her phone to my face and back again. Your brother and Jasmine needed the space, she said, as if we'd already talked about it, and I'd agreed. You'll be fine on the couch until you're back on your feet. Just like that. Not, we had to rearrange things. Are you okay with this? Not, we're so sorry. We had no choice. Just a statement like a decision had been made and my feelings didn't matter. I felt something in my chest go cold. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I didn't even sit down. I walked over to the garbage bags, each one stuffed with pieces of my life. Clothes, books, notebooks, random things I hadn't seen in years. The plastic crinkled under my hands as I lifted them one by one, my stitches screaming with each step. No one offered to help. I think you're being dramatic, my mom said quietly when I walked past her. I didn't answer. I carried every bag back outside, loaded them into the trunk of my car, and got into the driver's seat. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. I shouldn't have been driving. Not like that, not in my condition. But staying felt worse than the danger of the road. My apartment was still empty 100 miles away. I still had the keys. That drive almost killed me. The pain medicine had worn off. Every bump in the road felt like a knife. And at one point, I had to pull over just to breathe. No one called to ask if I'd made it. No one texted to see where I'd gone, but I made it. The next morning, still sore and moving slowly around stacks of garbage bags in my apartment, I walked into the bank. The joint account I'd opened years ago to help them out. The one they kept taking money from like it had no bottom sat on the screen in front of me. I closed it. No warning, no speech, just a quiet signature and a final click. By evening, my phone lit up like it was on fire. First my mom, then my dad, then my brother, then all over again. Missed calls stacked on top of each other. 10, 20, 50 more. Notifications piled up so fast the screen couldn't keep up. I didn't answer a single one, and that was only the beginning. By the next morning, the calls turned frantic. The first one I saw was from my mom. Why are you doing this? Then my dad, call me back now. Then my brother, whose message came in sharp and angry. Seriously, Serena, grow up. By noon, the tone had shifted from confusion to anger. The texts rolled in like waves hitting the same spot on a cliff. Have you lost your mind? You're being ridiculous. We need that account, Serena. And then came the final blow, a text from Jasmine, my brother's wife, who had barely spoken to me except to complain about the Wi-Fi password. We were counting on that money. You blindsided us. Counting on my money like it was a paycheck they'd earned. I stared at her message for a long moment, taking in the entitlement, the assumption, the complete lack of awareness. Then I blocked her. It felt like snapping a thread that had been wrapped around my throat. For a moment, I just sat there in my dim apartment, surrounded by garbage bags from my childhood bedroom. My body hurt in ways I didn't have words for. My stomach pulsed with pain. My muscles were stiff from sleeping on the floor. I was exhausted, wounded, alone. And yet it was the first time in years that I felt like I was making my own choices. The old me, the version of Serena who sent money without being asked, who cleaned up everyone else's messes, who answered every late-night call. She would have given in by now. She would have apologized even though she'd done nothing wrong. But she was gone. The quiet that settled over my apartment felt strange at first, unfamiliar, heavy. I wasn't used to silence that wasn't filled with guilt or responsibility. I wasn't used to going a whole afternoon without someone needing something from me. I made myself soup on the stove, canned chicken noodle, the cheap kind, and ate it sitting on the floor. My air mattress hissed slowly in the corner, losing air. Again, the same way it had every night since I got back. My apartment felt hollow, but at least it was mine. Then came the knock at the door, a soft, quick pattern. When I opened it, Leah stood there holding a heating pad and a big tote bag. "You look like you wrestled a bear," she said gently. "I feel like I lost," I replied. She came in without waiting for permission, dropped the tote bag on the floor, and pulled out containers of warm food, a blender for smoothies, and a small bag of lavender tea. "You don't have to talk," she said. "I just didn't want you eating crackers for dinner again." Her presence softened the air around me. We talked about nothing important. TV shows, her coworker's weird haircut, the neighbor who kept feeding pigeons. At 3 a.m., but underneath it all, she watched me quietly, putting together the parts of the story I wasn't ready to tell. When she left, the apartment felt less empty. That night, something inside me clicked into place. The part of me that used to give and give, hoping someone would one day give back. That part was done waiting. I opened my laptop. One by one, I began cutting the cords. I logged into the family phone plan, the one I'd been paying for years, and removed my brother's line, then Jasmine's, then the old tablet my dad still used for work. I paused before removing my mother's just for a second, remembering the way she looked at me in the empty bedroom, more annoyed than sorry. I removed hers too. Then came the utilities, the Wi-Fi, the streaming services, the grocery delivery apps, all still under my name, all silently draining my bank account. Click, 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 gone. The next morning, I woke up to a Facebook message from someone I barely knew, one of my dad's coworkers. "Hey, just FYI," he wrote. "Your mom came by yelling about a phone bill. Everything okay on your end?" I stared at the screen. For once, someone was asking if I was okay. And the strangest part was I didn't know how to answer. "All good," I typed. Back. Just setting boundaries. 2 days later, I heard a noise outside my apartment. A shuffle of feet, voices. I froze, my heart pounding. When I checked the peephole, my breath caught. My entire family was standing there. My mom held a plastic container. Food probably, though. It might have been a guilt offering disguised as lasagna. She looked around the hallway nervously, like she didn't want the neighbors to see this. My brother stood beside her with his arms crossed, jaw tight, trying to look like the wounded person. Jasmine was behind him, holding her phone up like she was ready to film anything she could twist into evidence. They knocked. They said my name. My mom tried to sound soft. My brother tried to sound firm. Jasmine didn't say a word. She just recorded the door. I didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't give them anything to use against me. 15 minutes passed, then 20. Finally, they left. An hour later, my phone buzzed once. A text from my brother. Short, sharp, a final punch. "After everything we did for you, this is how you treat us. Unbelievable." I looked at the screen until it dimmed, my reflection appearing across it. Everything they did for me. They couldn't even leave my bed in my room when I came home from surgery. So, I made myself a promise that night. A quiet, private promise that echoed deeper than anything I'd ever said out loud. I wasn't going back. Not to the house, not to the role, not to the version of myself who kept their entire world running. Instead, I rebuilt quietly, completely alone, and they had no idea what was coming next. The silence lasted almost 2 weeks. Not the peaceful kind, the kind that feels like the air is holding its breath, waiting for something to break. Every morning I woke up expecting another wave of texts or a guilt-filled knock on my door, but nothing came. For the first time in years I had space. Space to think. Space to breathe. Space to feel the pain in my stomach without also carrying The weight of everyone else's problems. I spent most days shuffling slowly around my apartment, still weak from surgery. My bed hadn't arrived yet, so I slept on an air mattress that sagged in the middle like a tired lung. But the quiet was intoxicating. No one demanding money, no one asking for favors, no one acting like my existence was an inconvenience unless I was paying for something. I started catching up on things I had ignored while I was sick. Bills, emails, tasks I didn't even remember starting. That's when I began noticing the alerts. At first, it was 1 overdue notice, then 2, then 8. My stomach tightened, not from the stitches this time, but from dread. I clicked through them one by one. Streaming service, grocery delivery, utilities, a home security subscription I didn't even remember signing up for. All of them had my name on them. All of them were linked to my parents' house. All of them had been quietly draining my bank account for months, some for years. I turned off each one, my fingers shaking, not from fear, but from a rising anger that tasted sharp and metallic. I had been paying for all of this while I was barely able to afford my own food, and they still had the nerve to call me selfish. I thought that would be the worst of it. I was wrong. The next morning, an email from the electric company came into my inbox. I almost ignored it. Then I saw the subject line. Account transfer attempt denied. My heartbeat quickened as I opened. Someone, probably my brother, had tried to transfer the old electric account into a new name. But the transfer was denied because of the unpaid balance. $1,728. My breath caught. They hadn't paid a single bill on that account in months. I had been covering all of it without realizing it, thinking I was just paying my share back when I lived there. I turned off autopay permanently. For the first time, I felt something close to satisfaction. Not joy, not victory, just the heavy click of a lock sliding into place. Then came the email that made my blood run cold. A debt collection notice, not addressed to me directly, but listing me as a cosigner. I stared at the numbers, feeling my pulse pound in my ears. The loan amount had doubled. Over $14,000, overdue for months, fees piling on, interest climbing like ivy. My dad had asked me to cosign 2 years ago. Just a rough patch, he'd said. I'll handle it. You won't even notice. I notice now. I called the number on the notice. The woman on the phone was far too cheerful for someone delivering bad news. No, there's no way to remove your name, she said kindly. Not unless the loan is paid in full. After the call ended, I sat on the floor with my laptop open in front of me. The room was dim except for the dull glow of the screen. Then, with a kind of numb determination, I started digging. Bank statements, old texts, receipts, random notes I'd written on envelopes when someone asked for money just until Friday. Years' worth of transactions I'd ignored, forgotten, or convinced myself weren't a big deal. Hours passed. The sun went down. My apartment stayed silent. When I finally reached the end, I stared at the number at the bottom of the spreadsheet. $37,012. That was the cost of being their daughter, not including the things you can't put a price on. Sleep, dignity, peace. The years I spent believing I owed them my life because they had given me one. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there feeling something inside me settle into a cold, steady clarity. 2 days later, I heard loud voices outside my apartment again. My mom, alone this time, pacing, yelling into her phone, crying loudly enough for the neighbors to hear. I didn't open the door. When she realized I wouldn't, she knelt down in front of the peephole and sobbed harder. Big dramatic cries meant to echo down the hallway. Then she slid an envelope under my door and left. Inside was a letter. Sloppy. Handwriting. Rushed. Desperate. You're tearing this family apart. Your father's health is getting worse. We might lose the house. Why are you doing this to us? Pain shot through my stomach, not from guilt, but from the sheer nerve. No apology. No acknowledgement of the empty bedroom. No mention of the garbage bags. No taking responsibility for the months they drained my accounts dry. Just blame. Manipulation. A plea for me to fix the consequences of their choices. I set the note on the counter, made myself tea, and stared at the steam rising from the mug until it blurred the world. That's when I got another bill in the mail, a medical one. Ambulance transport. Coverage denied. I frowned. That didn't make sense. I had insurance. I checked it twice. I called the number. Oh, the woman said casually, scrolling through her system. It looks like the extra policy attached to your file was canceled by the primary holder 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, I was still recovering, barely able to walk, certainly not canceling insurance plans. Who canceled it? I asked. She hesitated, then read the name. My mother. For a moment, I genuinely couldn't breathe. She hadn't just abandoned me. She hadn't just taken from me. She hadn't just replaced me in the house I grew up in. She had cut me off from insurance while I was still in the hospital. To save money, to punish me, to cut the last connection that tied me to her. I hung up the phone slowly, sat on the floor, and let the silence press into me from all sides. And that was the moment right there on the cold floor, surrounded by unpaid bills and garbage bags full of my childhood, that something inside me hardened. They didn't just mistreat me. They tried to erase me. That night, I called Leah. This time I didn't hold back. Not the lies, not the money, not the empty room or the canceled insurance. Not the smear campaign they were starting behind my back. When I finished, Leah was quiet for a long moment. Then she asked the simplest question. What do you want to do? I didn't even have to think. I want them to feel what it's like, I said, my voice steady. When the only person holding them together walks away for good, and I meant it. Revenge didn't start with fireworks. It didn't come with yelling or dramatic scenes or the kind of messy moments people post online for entertainment. It didn't even feel angry. It felt methodical, quiet, surgical. I woke up the next morning with the kind of focus I hadn't had in years, maybe ever. This wasn't about hurting them. Not yet. It was about cutting every string they still thought they had tied around me. The shared Amazon account, logged out and deleted. The subscriptions my brother used, canceled. The pharmacy account, where my name still showed as a backup contact. For my dad, removed. The grocery delivery app my mom used weekly under my login, gone. And then came the last one, the family phone plan. I was still listed as the primary account holder, the one who paid the bill every month without fail, even when I was too sick to stand up straight. Somehow they assumed I'd keep doing that forever. I didn't even hesitate. I shut the entire plan down. My mother's phone went dark the next morning. I imagined her staring at the screen, tapping it like it might magically come back to life. My brother's line too. And Jasmine's. The tablet my dad used for work. All of it. For once, they were the ones scrambling. After that, I updated my emergency contacts. I removed every trace of them from my medical portal, my school records, my bank accounts, my PayPal, my Venmo, everything. I put Leah's name down instead. Seeing her listed where my parents used to be made something tight in my chest finally loosen. Then came the text that pushed everything over the edge. Not from my parents, not from my brother, from Jasmine's older sister, a woman I'd spoken to exactly twice in my life. I'm staying out of it, she wrote. But you should know. Your parents are telling people you emptied their bank account and ran off. They're saying you used them and left them with nothing. I stared at the message, blinking. Not because I was surprised, because somewhere deep inside me something cracked. Not like a break, but like an old wound that finally drained. After everything I'd given them, after the money, the loans, the utilities, the groceries, the coverage, the surgeries, after they emptied my room and threw my life into garbage bags, they still found a way to make me the villain. I didn't respond. Not to her, not to them. Instead, I got to work. I pulled open old email chains, text threads, bank statements, screenshots, 2 years' worth of financial proof they never thought I'd track. Every emergency that turned out not to be an emergency. Every short-term loan that was actually code. For rent we can't pay. Every we'll pay you back that never happened. I still had the receipts for everything. Literally, the seafood buffet. My parents went to the same night I paid for my dad's emergency dental work. The spa day Jasmine posted about right after asking for grocery money. The Uber receipts for my brother's weekend trips after claiming he needed gas money to get to work. I organized everything, documented everything, built a timeline that would make a lawyer impressed. Then I backed it up in 3 places. Not because I planned to use it, not yet. But because if they tried to destroy my reputation, I wanted the truth ready like a loaded gun. A few days later, Leah texted me about a wedding. Jasmine's cousin. Big event, formal, packed with extended family. You should come, she told me when she stopped by that evening. I laughed. Actually laughed. I'm not invited. That's why you should go, she said, her eyes steady. You don't have to talk. Just show up. I hesitated. The thought of seeing them again made my stomach twist. But something inside me, the part that was tired of being erased, said yes. The day of the wedding, Leah helped me choose a dress. Navy blue, simple, elegant. She straightened my hair, put a soft blush on my cheeks, and stepped back. You look like someone who survived, she said quietly. When I walked into the venue, conversation slowed. My mother saw me first. Her eyes widened in shock, her jaw going slack. She nudged my dad, who stiffened, his face tightening like he'd seen a ghost. My brother stood near the buffet table, pretending to laugh at something on his phone, but his posture gave him away, rigid, defensive. And Jasmine, she didn't even try to hide her horror. I didn't go near them. I didn't look at them, didn't speak to them, didn't breathe in their direction. I just existed, and that was enough. People came up to me politely, cautiously. It's so good to see you. I heard you've been through a lot. You look well. Did you move out? I smiled, answered with small talk, kept it brief, moved on. And in the background, I could feel them watching me, their story crumbling like a poorly built house. They told everyone I was unstable, dramatic, irresponsible. But there I was, calm, polished, whole, existing without them. Later, Leah told me someone overheard Jasmine having a full meltdown in the bathroom. She's flipping the story, Jasmine hissed through tears. She's making us look bad. But I didn't flip anything. I just breathed. And sometimes breathing is all it takes to expose a lie. A week later, my mom tried one more time. A text from a new number. I didn't respond. 2 hours later, an email. Your father isn't doing well. Your brother is under a lot of pressure. This has all gone too far. You belong with your family. Please, let's fix this. Not a single line acknowledging what they did. Not one apology, not 1 ounce of ownership. Just guilt, fear, manipulation, and softer packaging. I read it once, deleted it, emptied the trash, and let them sit in the silence they created. They threw me out like I didn't matter. Now they were finally learning what that actually feels like. Life moves differently when you stop dragging people who are committed to sinking. A month passed after that email. I didn't reply. I didn't answer the 3 follow-up messages. One from my dad, one from my brother, one from Jasmine, who had clearly run out of pride. All 3 said some version of, "We're still family. We should talk. This is getting out of hand." Not one of them said, "We're sorry. We were wrong. We shouldn't have done that to you." They didn't want to make up. They wanted access to my money, to my stability, to the version of me who fixed everything. For them, that version didn't exist anymore. Meanwhile, my life finally, painfully, quietly, began to rebuild itself. I got a new job. Nothing fancy, but solid, stable, with full benefits. For the first time in forever, I had health insurance that didn't depend on my mother deciding whether or not I deserved it. I bought a real bed, a thick, soft mattress that didn't cave in the middle. I painted my apartment walls a warm gray that made the room feel calm. I replaced my mismatched thrift store furniture with things I chose little by little, paycheck by paycheck. Leah came over almost every weekend during that time. We put up shelves together, laughing at how uneven the first one looked. We ate takeout on the floor before the couch arrived, then on the couch before the table arrived. The place transformed, not quickly but carefully, into something that felt like home. One night, while we were stacking books on a new shelf, I told her, "You saved me." She shook her head, handed me a can of soda, and said, "You saved yourself. I just handed you snacks while you did it." She wasn't entirely wrong. The hard part wasn't leaving. The hard part was staying gone. It was waking up every day resisting the urge to fix things I didn't break. It was seeing calls I didn't answer. It was knowing I had a folder full of screenshots that could destroy their lives in 5 seconds flat and choosing not to pull the trigger. Knowing that while I rebuilt a life, they were desperately weaving a version of the story where they weren't the villains. And every passing day made their story harder to sell. 2 months later, my dad was hospitalized. Leah heard it through someone at church before anyone told me. My family was shocked I didn't show up. Shocked I didn't send flowers. Shocked I didn't ask if he was okay. I didn't even flinch. Not out of cruelty, but because you don't set yourself on fire for people who watched you bleed and didn't hand you a tissue. I stayed home, made myself dinner, folded my clean laundry, went to sleep, and for once, I didn't dream about anything heavy. 2 weeks after that, I made a decision that had been quietly forming in my mind for months. I changed my last name. No announcements, no dramatic Facebook post, no speech about taking back my power, just paperwork, a notary, a signature, a new ID. The day the confirmation letter arrived, I sat on my living room floor with the envelope in my hands. When I opened it, something inside me cracked open, but not in pain. I cried not because I was sad, not because I was mourning anything, but because for the first time in my entire life, I felt free. Not better, not perfect, just mine. My name, my life, my choices, my silence, my peace. I put all the documents that carried my old last name, the old version of me, into a small box. I placed it in the back of my closet, not to remember what they did, but to remind myself that I survived it. People sometimes ask me now, do you miss them? Do you think you'll ever forgive them? Do you ever think about going back? Here's the truth. I don't spend time thinking about people who loved me only when I made their lives easier. When I think about family now, I think of Leah, the one person who showed up with socks and smoothies and never asked for anything in return. The one who stayed not because it helped her, but because she cared. That's the life I'm building. A life where love isn't conditional. Where my worth isn't measured in the money I can give. Where peace isn't something I earn by sacrificing myself. I'm not angry anymore. Curiosity got the better of me. It was my aunt, my mother's older sister, a woman I hadn't spoken to in years. Her voice was careful, hesitant. "I'm not trying to interfere," she began. "But your mom is not doing well. She's barely leaving the house. She keeps saying she wants her daughter back." "I'm not taking sides. I just thought you should know." I listened, then I deleted it. Not out of hatred, not out of spite, but because going back, even for 1 second, would undo everything. I rebuilt. Their lives are falling apart in ways I used to prevent. Jasmine left my brother. Money problems finally caught up. My parents are behind on the mortgage. That house, the one they shoved me out of, is slipping through their fingers. And they want me back. Not because they've changed, not because they're sorry, but because they miss the version of me that held everything together. I have nothing left to give. My landlord offered me a lease renewal. I signed it without hesitation. I take evening walks now. I cook real meals. I sleep in a bed I chose. I even signed up for 2 online classes just to feel like myself again. The idea of going back to school doesn't scare me anymore. Leah and I took a weekend trip to a lake house. Nothing fancy. We made pasta from scratch, sat on the porch wrapped in blankets, drank wine, and talked about stupid things that made us laugh until we cried. I think that was the first time in years I felt truly safe, truly held, truly human. So, if you're reading this wondering whether cutting ties changes anything, here's the truth. First, it's painful. Then, it's quiet. Then, it's peaceful in a way that almost feels wrong because you've never known peace without a price. But it's Real, I didn't get closure from them. I gave it to myself.